Welcome to another edition of From the Perch. I'm Roman from the Orange Bowl Boys podcast and contributor for Canes Insight. University of Miami versus FIU. This is going to be Jaron Williams' first interception of the game. Unjustifiably so, they're going to blame D. Wiggins on the telecast and say he didn't run through the route. That couldn't be farther from the truth, but let's set up why and what happened. They're in the pistol formation, and they were super successful the week before when Jaron Williams broke the touchdown record on in-breaking RPO routes. They have a little bit of a wrinkle here where they have the number 2 wide receiver, Jeff Thomas, running a bubble. Now, at this point right here, this is when you're going to have to read this leverage, read this as a quarterback, and realize that this is the leverage you want, and you want to get Jeff Thomas in stride on this bubble screen. Instead, you decided to keep this. Now watch what happens right here. When that number 2 DB that was in man coverage, slightly off man coverage, started to play downhill, he ran right into D. Wiggins. Just a natural rub out of the play. He was off his route. You try to anticipate that slant. You've hit that well one too many times on the season, and boom, interception. Got to see that better in the future. Got to anticipate that and let that be a lesson. The North Carolina rings a bell. But in this case, you're going to see that FIU's game plan was simple. They weren't going to let you beat them and create a lot of sacks and tackles for a loss, so they got rid of the ball relatively quickly. Probably what Miami should have did at the beginning portions of the year while their offensive line was getting worked out. But I digress. And here you go. Miami with a prowler package is coming in and they're blitzing. They're playing essentially zone behind this. Now at this point, 55, you're in position, but for whatever reason, you don't adjust to his speed well, and you think he's going to go ahead and take an in-breaking cut. He sells it, puts the foot in the ground, you get lost, and now the rest, FIU just wants it more than you. It's very evidently clear. You have Canes who just simply cannot get off their blocks. On top of that, this effort right here by Romeo Finley, dogging himself over, does not create the better lane, doesn't keep the play in front. And let's continue to watch this effort by Romeo Finley. Just jogging in the back of the play, maybe a little jog. Got to give credit to right here, Robert Knowles, who was hustling. He was a blitzer, and you find him here. They talk about straining by the Miami defensive staff and straining to the next level. Yeah, I'm straining, all right. I'm straining watching that. Okay, this is a 4th and goal failed attempt by the University of Miami Hurricanes. They're going to attempt to run a quarterback power lead where essentially you're going to have DJ Dallas aid as a lead blocker. I'm going to go ahead and set this up in parts, and I'm going to rewind the tape later on to show you a different aspect and avenue. In this case, Miami is setting their run strength to the boundary side of the field. They have DJ Dallas, Will Mallory, and KJ Osborne, who's going to loosen it up when he goes in jet sweep motion. FIU knows this and is combating it very, very heavily with these defenders set to the run strength. Now here you go. As they snap the ball, pay attention to this defender. Initially, he's going to wash down into the B gap and bounce back out to C. When he does, he's going to be the first defender that essentially trips up Jaron Williams, which I don't think would have mattered, because I think Jaron Williams would have gotten in despite him coming in untouched. But in that this is so Miami portion of the clip, look at Zion Nelson. Zion is going to do a good job and body his defender right into the feet of DJ Dallas, who is aiding as a lead blocker. When that happened, nobody gets a hat on this, and Jaron Williams is stopped short of the goal line. Now, let's go ahead and rewind this tape again to about the 54-second mark. This, coaches, I know you're going to blame the kids on the execution of that run, and I hear you. But on this one's on you. Because when you don't have audible capability, especially in the red zone, when you don't have flexibility to maybe check with me, when are you ever going to have an easier touchdown than a 2-for-1 set out here into the field? This is stealing. But when you're that rigid, when you don't believe in adapting, when you don't have that, that's on you. This is unacceptable. This was an easy touchdown. I don't care. I don't care what you say. This is brutal. 3rd and 19, and yeah, it's third and 19. And essentially, I know it's been successful on a year by putting Gregory Rousseau as a zero-tech defensive tackle, but in this case, you understand that he is giving up some weight on the interior. He's going to get triple teamed here. Now, on top of that, just here we go. So he's getting moved way out of the way. You're going to essentially have Hill. He does a great job anticipating the snap. I have no idea how he doesn't draw a flag for being offsides. Not that it matters. You're going to have an obvious hold right here when he's pulling the back of the jersey of Amari Carter. You might have had one here on 55. But Gregory Russo being in a zero tech in this, man, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't. This is going to be another turnover on downs and yet another failed 4th and 1 attempt here in the first half for the University of Miami. Miami's going to come out with 12 set personnel tied to the formation, and you're going to see all 11 FIU defenders in the frame. It's going to be a play action pass, and the primary read, it's going to be a low to high read with Michael Irvin Jr. being the first read into the flats. Now, I want you to pay attention to this free safety who drops down. This is a good scout job, and also knowing you're down in distance. You're playing the line, 4th and 1. He's playing this crosser and essentially letting Will Mallory and KJ Osborne, who are acting nothing more, is essentially they're clearing this side of the field. He's essentially attaching to this number 2 wide receiver. Now, last week when I praised Jaron Williams' ability to sense the spider sense and get a nice touchdown to DJ Dallas when he goes ahead and play fakes it, I think his spidey sense failed him here. A little bit of a touch pass, sticking with this just a little bit longer. This is an easy conversion on 4th and 1. Now he's going ahead and looking for D. Wiggins, who's bracketed, and in this case, still wide open in the flats. Doesn't sense it. Errant pass when he goes ahead and off-platforms this, and this essentially turns into a turnover on downs. First play out of the second half, and it's going to be an interception on an RPO slant. Same interception you throw, and on the same variety earlier in the first half, you're going to do it here. A little bit differently, mind you, but I don't necessarily disagree with Jaron Williams' decision to keep the ball when you consider right here you have an untouched defensive end who could have made a play downhill on Cam Harris. But pay attention. You're going to have somebody in off man essentially in this window playing inside shade. So at this point, both of these are covered. In the future, Miami might want to adapt this and essentially put this on an out. And I've been saying this for weeks. If I'm going to play Miami, I'm going to be on guard for this style of play because they run it frequently. Miami might want to start to adopt some outbreaking RPOs because if he simply sits, throttles down, does an out, this is an easy completion. But when you're an off man and you try to force it, that's what happens. This isn't going to be an overly complicated breakdown here. I'm just going to tell you that routinely throwing the ball into triple coverage is not good. Hey, so it wasn't all bad. Miami in a 3-by-1 set here on 1st and 10. Good job here by the offensive line creating a pocket. Jaron Williams does a good job stepping up, keeping his eyes downfield. And when you do that, you can find somebody wide open in Mark Pope for an easy pitch and catch touchdown. And I'm trying to figure out if Sebastian is actually hustling faster and harder than some of our defensive guys. That's a debate. Miami likes to do this rotation on jet sweep motions. Essentially what they'll do is they'll take the initial defender, they'll put him back into the safety role and take the safety and essentially check him across the other side of the formation. Well, I think FIU knew that. Because in this situation when it's 2nd and 5 and you desperately need a stop and you're losing to FIU, potentially the worst loss in program history, and you need a stop, well, it's that kind of a tendency that everybody knows you're doing it. That essentially right here, and when you have two guys fit the same gap and you rotated like you normally do away from the jet motion sweep, now you leave this. And what is this? This is FIU beating you at the old sacred site of the Orange Bowl. This play right here, the culmination of it all, was horrible, terrible. Coaches, you take fault. Players, you didn't play particularly well either. This is an embarrassment. Get it fixed. This was gross.